Hi y'all, Mike here, and today we're talking about tests. No, we're not talking about those tests. We're talking about statistical tests. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in that situation where you've conducted your experiment, you've collected your data, and now you're up to the part where you must test your hypothesis? But you just cannot seem to figure out the difference between a t-test and a chi-squared test. Well, today's your lucky day because I am going to show you the differences between t-test and the chi-squared test. Now, I won't delve deep into the differences of these two tests, otherwise we're going to be here forever. And I don't think you want to be here forever. Except you. Yes, you. You can be here as long as you want, but I'm leaving. Anyways, let's get started. Now, there are two types of t-test. You have your independent samples t-test and your dependent samples t-test. First, we will talk about the independent samples t-test. Now, the independent samples t-test is the most commonly used method to evaluate the differences in means between two groups. For example, the t-test can be used to test for a difference in test scores between a group of patients who were given a drug and a control group who received a placebo. Theoretically, the t-test can be used even if the sample sizes are very small, as long as the variables are normally distributed within each group and the variation of scores in the two groups is not reliably different. In order to perform a t-test for independent samples, one independent variable and at least one dependent variable are required. The means of the independent variable will be compared between selected groups based on the specific values of the independent variable. Now, the chi-squared test is any statistical hypothesis test in which the sampling distribution of the test statistic is a chi-squared distribution when the null hypothesis is true. Meaning that the sampling distribution, if the null hypothesis is true, can be made to approximate a chi-squared distribution as closely as desired by making the sample size large enough. The best known of the several chi-square tests is Pearson's chi-square test. Pearson's chi-square test is used to assess two types of comparison: test of goodness of fit and test of independence. A test of goodness of fit establishes whether or not an observed frequency distribution differs from a theoretical distribution. A test of independence assesses whether paired observations on two variables, expressed in a contingency table, are independent for each other. For example, whether people from different regions differ in frequency with which they report that they support a political candidate. I hope this has helped you better understand the differences between t-test and chi-square test.